impact on?
These are. These are with the exception of, well, let's put it, they all are, as long as the second to last paragraph is done carefully, so that when one is eliminating what are conceived of to be obsolete terms, that you're not inadvertently making a change.
Okay.
So
if you're already granting his opinion because you did have this beforehand, so then I want to go further with the motion. The motion would be that you would investigate them and propose language.
Yes.
this is fun. What I would do is, I've done this before. I did this actually years ago with the city code, which was to literally take the entire document and go through it for cleanup purposes. So it's a somewhat tedious task, but you go through and you start to
The entire charter?
the entire charter. That's what they're talking. That's what he's talking about. He says cleanup language. He doesn't mean
finish this here?
there. Yeah. Oh no, it can be done. It can be done.
Yeah, because he's saying go in and, where it says he, bring it up to modern times, put he or she when it says he.
Right.
So it's
That's very different than what Steve proposed. Because the he or she thing you can do in Word, and you can do a search, and you can say find,
Right.
and then he or she.
Right.
And that
No,
gets
I'm
done
just
in-
saying that's one example of the cleanup that he's looking at, is to make it more
I guess I'm
line
asking.
with the time, politically correct, no pun intended.
We have to clean it up, whether it's tedious or not. I mean, it has to be done,
Yeah.
so.
So, are we in favor of that?
Yes.
Yes.
It's not as big as it seems. It's just tedious. What you end up doing is
Summer help.
you end up coming.
Yeah,
Say
one of your
summer
secretaries doing this?
Yeah, I would have nothing.
One of the unpaid surveys?
No.
For the good impact.
No, what you do is you start to come up with an outline of the approach, and I'd have to sit down, take me a couple of hours to train somebody. What is a commissioner? What is the different titles? What does it mean? And then you start to go through and you word search to come up with where all of those appear, and then you start to do consistency things. It can be done.
Okay, cool. Someone move to have Steve review the charter for language cleanup, including the previously mentioned 6 items. Steve, second. Joe, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? I said that only because I didn't see you raise your hand.
I'm a yes. I missed one on there.
So all in favor?
Good to hear.
All right, so the other 2 items, let's go back to the first page. Duties of the city clerk.
City clerk's getting a lot of press time these days.
It is, apparently. So he's asking, should they be added to the duties of charge with the official records of all chartered and non-chartered city boards and commissions to wit. For each board commission maintain minimum information, including the name and complete contact information of each member, appointment date, and appointment expiration. Assure that each member signs the oath of office book maintained by the clerk, or signs and files an oath of office statements with the clerk. Notify the mayor in writing that an appointment is going to expire. This should occur no less than 60 days prior to the actual expiration date. What's your thought?
It's nothing there that seems in
Does
the least bit
any
unreasonable.
office maintain this information now?
Does anyone maintain this information currently? Was the question.
There is not, as far as I'm aware, a central repository. I think that's what the mayor is looking to collect. So, for example, let's take the planning commission or the planning board, for argument's sake. They would presumably have their own records as to who was on and when they had been appointed and so forth, they'd be sworn in. But I don't believe that there is a formal requirement, for example, that they have contact information on file necessarily with anybody, no less than the central office.
think that's asking anything unreasonable.
So I have two questions. One is, given that the city clerk, quote unquote, reports to the city council, should we get an opinion from them before we make that change? It would seem like a courtesy to at least get their opinion. Maybe they have different views than what's being proposed here. And then the second thing was a more basic question. Why does the city clerk report to the city council? As opposed to the...
Yeah, that's a good question, Julius. It's actually not that uncommon, believe it or not. And I'll be quite forthright with you to tell you that it's something that I know isn't the case historically. Why that's the case, I don't know. I've never really had a...
I mean, for me, I'd actually like to look at that, and I know that gets me shot by a few 7 people in the city. One, if it were the other way, he would change that and move on.
So we can find out for you what the reason is, why that may be, and it may, well, I don't want to speculate, but
I mean, is there a balance of power issue? I mean, does anyone else have any interest in?
Do we have to ask the city council about, I mean, none of this seems that huge. Couldn't we just ask Joan if this is possible?
Jones.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Right, I'm saying, but
You're
I'm
asking
saying,
a different question.
I'm asking a different question. Well, the first question I'm asking is, given that these people this person works for the city council, wouldn't it be a proper courtesy to ask the city council to give us an opinion? Ask the city council president specifically,
Yeah.
hey, this is what's being proposed, what do you think? And I just think that that's a courtesy you would do.
I think it's something they would want to have. I mean, they're looking for accountability, and this gives everybody's name, number, expiration date.
And they may, I mean, for us, it seems reasonable. I'm just asking, I don't know, maybe they come up with something different. Say, no, it shouldn't be 60 days. We only want to give them 1 day because we don't want them to know. And then we'll know, okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think that that's
And I
unreasonable,
think
but I can't see why they
I
would.
think while you're reaching out, you should reach out to Joan as well.
I do too.
She may have other thoughts about what's practical or
She's been
impractical.
doing this for years, she might have an idea of what,
So what's your pleasure? Would you like to reach out to the city council president and receive his opinion? Would you like to reach out to the whole group and get their each individual opinions? No. Would you like to look All right, so would you like to reach out to the city council president, and would you like to reach out to the city clerk as well?
yes. I think she's,
So moved?
yes.
Yes, and seconded? Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And then the other issue that I raised was this question, I'm sorry, any opposed, forgive me.
No.
Any abstentions? The other issue that I raised was the notion of where the city clerk sits. Do we have any interest in looking at that? If we don't, fine, I just had a question that come up for me.
I mean, there's no harm in learning something. I mean, I would like to know why it's there. It seems like it should be something outside of the council, which is to maintain the whole,
Yeah,
it's administrative.
It sounds like an administrative position versus a legislative position. And currently it's under the legislative arm, and I didn't get that. It doesn't make logical sense to me. There may be some other thing.
And we can find out historically. I know it's not limited to Yonkers, that I will tell you. But what the historic reasons are and why it's been that way, I'm just not sure.
Moved to ask Steve to investigate where the city clerk, why the city clerk currently sits there and what the implications are. Moved by Bob, seconded. Steve, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The third item on the mayor's letter was political activity prohibitions. The charter prohibits certain specified political activities by members of the Yonkers Police Department because of the potential that their enforcement authority could have an effect on voters. In this section, it states no police officer, police department officer, or member shall be a member of a delegate or to any political party, political convention, or be present thereat unless in an official capacity. And he's saying, since other city officials have also enforcement authorities, such as the members of the Buildings and Housing Department, Code Enforcement, and Fire Department, do not have the same prohibitions placed on them, determine whether or not this prohibition should be lifted from the police department. Of course, one of the other things could be, is do you want to extend the prohibition? But I'm sure